During Thanksgiving dinner in 2014, my brother kept bringing up this play he planned to see in previews, a hip-hop musical about the rise and fall of America's first Treasury Secretary, Alexander Hamilton. Due to the strangeness of the idea, I assumed I would never hear about it again. Of course, I was wrong.
The hit Broadway musical Hamilton.
Hamilton.
Biggest hit, Hamilton.
Hamilton. Hamilton.
Hamilton.
Hamilton.
Go see Alexander Hamilton.
Hamilton has found a prominent place in popular culture that only a handful of Broadway shows have been able to do in modern times. It has been the center of praise and controversy, and it's been labeled as everything from being the reinvention of theater to being highly overrated. But regardless of what's been said about the show, it has stayed in the public's consciousness since its debut. As the production has grown in notability, the quick pitch my brother gave me, which I've since heard from dozens of news outlets, countless celebrities, and the show's creator and star, Lin-Manuel Miranda, no longer seems so weird. And the question I keep coming back to is why? Why has this play that seems too specific and too niche to succeed become so widely accepted? A classification as particular as historical hip-hop musical runs the risk of only appealing to people who are interested in the intersection of the three. However, Hamilton's audience goes far beyond that, and what it kind of comes down to is that it seems to be constructed in a way where it can be appreciated for any of its bases, making it accessible to anyone interested in hip-hop or musicals or historical fiction. It isn't dependent on people being fans of all three. In fact, it seems like it almost expects people not to be. Instead of constricting the potential audience, its blending of genres has created more entry points, expanding its reach. And most importantly, the general consensus has been that the show does justice to each of its bases, which has given it staying power. Like most other music that sees a lot of success, Hamilton is catchy. From a lyrical standpoint, it manages to do so by using and combining popular conventions of both musicals and hip-hop, and honestly it all kind of boils down to repetition. A common feature of musicals are lyrical motifs, which are repeated ideas and phrases often tied to a certain character or situation, and Hamilton takes this to another level. Just about every major character has at least one lyrical motif associated with them that develops and changes in meaning throughout the play. They're pivotal to a lot of character arcs, making them impossible to forget. The central conflict revolving around Alexander Hamilton's and Aaron Burr's lifelong rivalry is highlighted by their lyrical motifs, with Hamilton's being "I am not throwing away my shot," signifying his refusal to pass up opportunities, and Aaron Burr's being variations of the phrase "wait for it," showing his reluctance to dedicate himself to a particular stance before knowing if it's the absolute best course of action. The two live by these opposite tenets throughout the entire show, until their eventual duel where Hamilton literally throws away his shot by raising his gun straight in the air, and Burr, in a rare impulsive act, fires first. This is the most prominent crossing of contrasting motifs in the show, but it is far from being the only one. And it's these moments, when the motifs contrast with each other and transfer between characters, that are some of the most powerful. These lines become catchy because it's the easiest way to understand what's going on at the heart of the show. In regard to the lyrical structure of individual songs, Hamilton uses a lot of staples of hip-hop, most notably with its use of internal rhyme. Words and phrases constantly play off of each other through the repetition of similar consonant and vowel sounds, also known as consonants and assonance, which leaves very few spaces that don't have some type of rhyme, whether it be partial or perfect.
I know the action in the street is exciting, but Jesus, between all the bleeding and fighting, I've been reading and writing. We need to handle our financial situation. Are we a nation of states? What's the state of our nation? I'm past patiently waiting, I'm passionately smashing every expectation, every action's an act of creation. I'm laughing in the face of casualties of sorrow. For the first time I'm thinking past tomorrow.
The rhymes are infectious and memorable, and the level of care and skill that Lin-Manuel Miranda put into these lyrics is something that other hip-hop artists have taken note of.
Sometimes in hip-hop we say real, recognize real. So I could recognize immediately that Lin was a real one and that this was a real story.
In the eyes of the public, getting this type of acceptance from other musicians legitimized Hamilton as a work of hip-hop. Questlove and Black Thought ended up producing the cast album. Artists including Common, Busta Rhymes, and Chance the Rapper did features on the Hamilton mixtape, and rappers ranging from Talib Kweli to Jay-Z to Eminem attended the production, all showing some level of support and recognition for it. And it makes sense because Hamilton is entrenched in the history and culture of hip-hop and acts as a celebration of the medium, which is a feat that seems nearly impossible for a musical to pull off. Regardless, it manages to be a love letter to hip-hop while also being one to traditional Broadway shows. There are a ton of allusions throughout the play, ranging from Mobb Deep
I'm only 19, but my mind is older.
Only 19, but my mind is older.
to Pirates of Penzance.
I am the very model of a modern major general. Life is
Now I'm the model of a modern major general, the venerated Virginian veteran.
Hip-hop has always been a genre that wears its influences on its sleeve, and this is no different. The references largely manage to not feel forced or hokey, and they help tie modern struggles to those of a man who died over 200 years ago.
In all the shows that Steve and I have written together, including Assassins, you reach a point, I think, where the research is over and you then invent the character who actually existed in history. But they live in a kind of a penumbral area where they are who they were, but they are also who you want them to be.
And ultimately, this is the job of historical fiction, bringing life and emotional depth into a person that is normally learned about in ways that lack those elements. Miranda does this by tying it to hip-hop culture. As he has stressed regularly, Alexander Hamilton's life mirrors the classic rap story. A poor kid with no status writes his way out of poverty and into prominence. It's familiar, and seeing this through line from 1776 to today shows that although so much has changed over that time, the base idea of the American dream hasn't. And the show's casting, which has gotten a lot of press, both positive and negative, further reflects that idea. The roles of the Founding Fathers are cast primarily with Black and Latino actors, which is another way of connecting the past to the present. There are a lot of reasons that people have celebrated this choice, but in terms of making it feel like a credible hip-hop show, the importance is simply that they cast actors who would be most successful at performing the parts. Talib Kweli put it best when he was talking about the actor playing Thomas Jefferson, Daveed Diggs, saying, "That's an MC. That's not a traditional Broadway dude. That's a guy who raps and was put in the play because he raps." There are still plenty of traditional Broadway actors in the show, but the inclusion of an artist like Diggs, who has a background in rapping with his experimental trio Clipping, along with Lin-Manuel Miranda and Chris Jackson, who both have a long history of freestyle rapping, helps make the music not feel sterilized or robotic. The performances and writing actually seem like they are done by people who know about hip-hop. The music, while watered down from traditional rap to better suit a Broadway production, comes from a place that understands the genres that are being melded. The musical styles of each song weren't chosen brazenly. They each are used to get a specific point across. Like Thomas Jefferson's first song after coming back from France is a jazz number, signifying that he has fallen behind the times, which has moved into rap. King George's tracks are sappy British pop, cementing them as breakup songs between England and the colonies. And in the song titled We Know, where Hamilton is confronted by Aaron Burr, James Madison, and Thomas Jefferson for suspicions of embezzling government funds, a hint of reggae can be heard as a way to make fun of Hamilton for being born in the Caribbean. The wide range of genres that the show utilizes allows it to establish complex moods driven by viewers' pre-existing associations. There's a clear and direct purpose for each style, and while this isn't revolutionary to musicals, it highlights a running theme with the composition of Hamilton, which is that each element of the show is understanding of how it will affect the other elements. Everything from the rhyme structure, to the recurring motifs, to the historical moments covered, to the actors playing these American legends, to the genre choices of each song not only solidly stand up on their own, but are also able to blend in ways that enhance each other, making it greater than the sum of its parts. It utilizes each aspect to create a well-balanced production that doesn't pander to a specific audience. And ultimately, that's why Hamilton works. It isn't just trying to make history more interesting to people by using hip-hop, but it's also trying to make hip-hop more interesting to people by using history. It sets up all of these different entry points that help teach audiences about something they may not have previously known by using something familiar to put it into context. Hamilton is a show that anyone from George W. Bush to Kanye West can appreciate, and that fact in and of itself is praiseworthy. There are certainly people who will never be able to get past the initial silly pitch for the show, but the reason that so many have is because the broad range of subjects that Hamilton covers has something familiar and unfamiliar for just about any audience member, making it something worth digging into.
Not thrown away my